I lost my virginity, whatever virginity means, at 15, and my son is turning 15 next month. Wow. And in my head, when I think about that, I could cry because I'm like, what do you mean? And right now they have access to so much information. So it's like, how are we striking the balance between giving all the information they need with regards to like their sexual health, their bodies, their women's health, but at the same time still maintaining some level of like, this is...
I know, for example, comprehensive sex education in Kenya is frowned upon.
Absolutely.
Which just, because they hear the sex.
Yeah.
I'm like, but have you not heard about the body and how the body works? But they know. We went to a school once and we were talking to KCP candidates. So we were just talking to them about periods, talking about their bodies. I'm like, maybe you guys know, but let's just give you a 1, 2, 3 about periods, what happens to your body, how to use a product, how to use a pad. Maybe for you guys, let's talk about pads, not tampons. It was good. We engaged them. Any questions? How often should I take P2? So first the teacher gagged.
First of all, let's clap for her for being able to ask the question because wow.
So the teacher immediately started doing this for us like you can't say. These were girls aged between 13, 14. Yeah. So that's the realities that they know. But give them a safe space to ask questions to get accurate information.
That's what she said.
Welcome back to this episode of That's What She Said vodcast. We're having an amazing conversation about womanhood, what it means to be a woman, some of the challenges, some of the joys. And we've really had such a beautiful conversation. Some of it has been really heavy, I know. We were so grateful that you have stuck it out until here. And I promise it's going to be worth it. Just before we went off, we were talking a bit about how dismissive the healthcare system can be for some of us, especially as women. And we have brought just the right person, just the right advocate to have this conversation. Let me read her bio because it's a lot. She's a lot of a woman, which is a really positive thing. Let me say, Janet Mbugua is a renowned media personality, author, and advocate for women's rights and menstrual health in Kenya. Everybody, if you don't know Janet Mbugua, I don't know where you've been living. Through her impactful work with the Inua Dada Foundation, she's been instrumental in driving national conversations around period poverty, reproductive health rights, and access to dignified healthcare for women and girls. Her ability to blend advocacy with storytelling makes her a powerful voice in unpacking women's barriers to accessing healthcare, which is obviously right up the alley of what we're discussing today. Welcome, Janet.
Thanks, Murugi.
Wow, nakapoa.
Na wewe.
You look beautiful.
I'm a fan of Murugi.
Yeah.
Acha tu nimpe flowers zake pia yeye. You've made me an in-betweener. Full on. You and Lydia. Yeah, love it.
Thank you so much. Can you introduce yourself in your own words? Because I know there's like the bio and then there's how you see yourself.
You know, just as I was doing it earlier, I'm like, I need to find a summarized way, so I'll get help with that. But I am a media personality.
Right.
And in that, there's, activist. I'm a co-host of a TV and radio show and digital creator. I added acting because I was like, clearly it's not enough.
Yeah.
Author, mom, and public speaker. So I think the summary is media personality, public speaker, activist.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Which part of you would you say is most you?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I think public speaker or maybe media. I think media is like the umbrella because it's doing all these within digital and mainstream media. So
right,
I'd say
okay.
that. Yeah.
This is my co-host, Sada.
Hello.
She'll also be asking you questions.
Oh, yay.
Yes,
I love it.
exactly. Yeah, an aspiring podcaster. You'd say you're an aspiring podcaster, right?
Yes.
Like content creator, activist, linguistic alchemist. That's what she said.
Linguistic alchemist.
Exactly.
And you should have told me that's how she introduced herself in Niandike Notes.
Exactly. And what was the second one?
A spoken word priestess.
A spoken word priestess.
Yeah. Okay, you're dressed like a priestess.
Come
that I can. You came on brand.
Come on. So just before you came on, we were having a conversation about how sometimes as women, many times as women, you'll go to the doctor with a concern or speak to someone with a concern and you'll feel dismissed or, you'll go to a hospital and they'll just be like, chukua tu hii dawa. And then you're just like, wait, but what is this medicine for? What has been your experience with regards to that, with regards to how the healthcare system doesn't support women in terms of knowing what is happening with them? Yeah.
It's just the most frustrating thing. I think medical gaslighting has been there for so long. When you think about the milestones, even in our healthcare, it's only in the 70s, I believe. I think it's the 70s that they started to be like, oh, Kume, this isn't hysteria. She's actually cramping. I'm like, what do you mean hysteria? So I'm crazy and making noise because of my cramps. So it's been dismissive for such a long time.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that speaks to how women are viewed as secondary citizens. Because if you really held me in high regard, and I'm not saying it's not evolving, but I always see it as, don't you care about me enough to figure out what's actually ailing me without gaslighting me and asking me to, when it comes to endometriosis, taking forever to diagnose me. That was one of my experiences.
Right.
I've had very problematic periods from, first of all, I started at the age of 10.
Oh my God.
So I had...
I'm sorry. To 10-year-old you. Yeah.
I know. I've tried to unpack that. And then when I was 16, 17, I would have a lot of pain until I was 20, 21. And I'm like, this is unbearable pain.
Yeah.
So the first doctor I saw gave me, did laparoscopic. I've completely butchered
that one.
Laparoscopic surgery.
Yeah.
Because he said I had ovarian cysts, but that's as far as it went. Said, we'll do this, you'll be fine. We'll burn the cysts and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Nope. 2 years later, I was in so much pain. And that's when my gynecologist was like, oh, you have endometriosis. I said, endo who? Then he walked me through and he said, I would want to put you on birth control.
Yeah.
I panicked because I said, what do you mean birth control? I've not even thought about that
I
yet.
haven't even, yeah.
And so that's how I guess I solved it. And he said, sometimes when you give birth, it will change. It has never, ever. But that's fine. He said sometimes. But that was my experiences. The first one was you'll be fine. But the pain persisted. And then I was on birth control all the way till I had kids.
Yeah.
My period pain is still really bad. So now I'm going into care and medical access that should be able to help me navigate it a bit easier. Now that I'm on the other side, like I call it second act, like 40 plus.
Yeah.
There's certain birth control that I'm told I can't really take or won't be as effective. My pain is actually worse now. So it's like, okay, is it adenomyosis? So you just go evolving with your body, winging it, trying to get advice, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But if you pursue the knowledge, I guess you get it, hopefully with the right people. But that's been my journey. It's still a journey, clearly.
Right.
Yeah.
Does endometriosis have a cure?
From what I understand, no, you just manage it.
That's really
You just
unfortunate.
manage. It's very unfortunate. It's really, and it affects some people so badly.
Right.
And it just doesn't. So some people are either on birth control, others have to go through surgery, but you kind of live with it and manage it best as you can. It's so painful.
I think we all followed Njambi's journey. And I think until her journey, I didn't realize it could be that bad. Like in my head, I was just like, wow, yeah. I mean, this is something that women struggle with, like painful periods, but like she literally passed on, you know, rest in peace. And that was insane to me, that it's something that people know so little about, and yet you can literally, all of us could be suffering from it. You know what I mean? That was really, really difficult.
Yeah, it's different levels of pain. But I'm like, pain of a broken finger, pain of a broken arm is still pain.
Exactly.
Your broken finger shouldn't be insignificant.
Because it's a finger.
Because it's a finger. But it's
agree.
like, no, if you're pain, and then women have to suffer through pain. You're told things like, but see, even us guys did it when you try to get menstrual leave in the workplace because you're in debilitating pain, but it can't be seen.
Right.
So you're gaslit and told you're just trying to ask for time off. All of those things, it's 2025 and it infuriates me.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, first of all, how are you gaslighting me further? You know, what is bothering you so much about my body that you can't take it seriously?
And do you feel like you speak from a point of privilege? Because of course you have money, you have access, you have access to the internet, to information, to a gynecologist and whatnot. Do you feel like the story is a lot more different for people who don't have the money, who can't go to like, you know, your own private gynecologist somewhere, you know?
100%. I love that you asked that, because nowadays I'm so conscious of speaking from a point. Every time.
Yeah.
And I think I had to self-audit to realize that. When I started doing advocacy, I was doing it because I was triggered and bothered. But over time, I was like, no, you can't speak for them.
Right.
You can either invite them onto your platform or... So it was making mistakes which were not intentional, but learning and realizing you cannot speak for that person.
Right.
Your situations are very different. So you're 100% right. It's from a place of privilege, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's important to recognize that my journey is different from hers, because the access factor, even the information and knowledge factor, when we still work with different girls and women in different communities, a lot of them will tell you, no, nobody's really talked to me about my periods. A lot of them who are teen moms will tell you, nobody drew the links for me. So I'll never forget. There's some stories I've heard that I'm like, man, I interacted with this story and I'm still in shock.
Yeah.
Like having sex, but she didn't know she was having sex. She thought they were playing. The way she put it to me is she said she was 14. 14, yes, had a boyfriend. And she's like, we were just fooling around. Nobody explained to me that what we were doing was having sex.
Yeah, because now...
No, it's, see, we did our thing. I got pregnant. I didn't know. So a few months, I'm just feeling all this weird movement in me. And it took me one day when I started showing for my mom to almost faint and be like, I'm sorry, just lift your shirt again. And that was hers. It could be that that's not as widespread, but there's similarities in just little information and knowledge. She now advocates, she's in her 20s. But that's a reality for a lot of people. So forget even having access to products. It's knowing what's happening in your body. Because I think we censor a lot of information. We think censorship is protection. I'm like, newsflash, they'll still discover in spaces that are not safe.
Right.
With the wrong information.
Yeah. And I feel like where we are right now, it's like, I remember there was a conversation we were having earlier on in the days, like there's the extreme of like, you're not trying to encourage young kids to have sex, right? You're not trying to be like, yeah, this is how it's going to be so fun. It's going to be great. But at the same time, it's like, they're going to see the video anyway. They are going to go and Google that information anyway. So what is that balance in between? And I'm also asking you as a mom, because I know as a mom, I personally struggle with the fact that I lost my virginity, whatever virginity means, at 15, and my son is turning 15 next month. Wow. And in my head, when I think about that, I could cry because I'm like, what do you mean? And right now they have access to so much information. So it's like, how are we striking the balance between giving, like people even in the slums or whatever, all the information they need with regards to like their sexual health, their bodies, their women's health, but at the same time still maintaining some level of like, this is right and wrong. I don't know.
Wow, that's a good... Wait, first, why are you scared because you're just like, oh my God, he's 15?
Yes, obviously I'm
happens.
anxious. And then I'm anxious also because he's a boy and I'm not a boy. So you see, I feel like if it was a girl, I could just be able to be like, I know what you're going through. I don't know what you're going through.
That's true.
I have no clue. So it's nerve-wracking, let me tell you that.
Yeah, I'm nervous with my soon-to-be 10-year-old, and I'm having a very complex experience with him as well. I think there's a lot of quiet evolution, and I'm trying to get it out of him. So I feel you. Sidebar for another day. I think balancing that line. Information doesn't mean oversharing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I know, for example, comprehensive sex education in Kenya is frowned upon.
Absolutely.
Which just, because they hear the sex.
Yeah.
I'm like, but have you not heard about the body and how the body works? So I think giving information, by the time they're preteens or teens, let's say teens, in their early teens, explain what's happening. Validate that madness of hormones. I look back and I'm like, I actually feel bad for teenagers.
They are going through, that's the worst part of life. It's the worst part of life, I feel.
Your body is doing all kinds of things. So nowadays I'm like, I have a lot of empathy and sympathy for teens.
Right.
Because it's growth spurt, it's hormones, it's confusion, it's what's the word? You are... Look at me trying to find another word for horny. Just like,
you are horny.
You are stimulated.
You are horny, yes.
But you're also kind of a child and not...
Yeah,
I feel bad. My hormones were wild. I can
imagine.
Telling me now you're ovulating at the age of God knows what. I'm like, why do I feel like jumping someone? But I know I shouldn't. It's really bad.
Yeah.
But tell me, what's happening in your body is normal, right? It's called periods. This is what will happen.
Yeah.
Even just give a disclaimer. Say we want to have a conversation about what's happening in our bodies. I know there's a lot of information out there. Nice. So let's open your minds. Just make this as a safe space. Talk about it. Then talk about sex. In fact, I'd say take it further, and this might be controversial. The thing about sex is it feels good. So you can't deny consensual safe sex feels good. That means even if you're going to engage in it, I know if you're young, it's not consensual, but say you're 17, 18, I don't know. I'm trying to find an age that's not problematic. There'll be a stimulation factor. Yeah. So it's not to say sex is bad, because it's not bad, unfortunately. So it's to say it's not something that you may fully understand now, which is why maybe it's okay to wait.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you communicate it that way.
As opposed to like otherwise you're going to get pregnant and you're going to
die. You'll get an
die.
STI and you're going to die. All these things. Say also you could get pregnant, number one. You could get an STI. You could get infected. Yeah. These are realities. So you'd rather wait until you have a lot more agency and awareness before you engage. And if you do engage, make sure that you're choosing safety, consent, products, contraceptives.
Right.
But now this information isn't being shared. But they know. We went to a school once and we were talking to KCP candidates. This was like in 2021. So we were just talking about periods, talking about their bodies. I'm like, maybe you guys know, but let's just give you a 1, 2, 3 about periods, what happens to your body, how to use a product, how to use a pad. Maybe for you guys, let's talk about pads, not tampons. It was good. We engaged them. Any questions? How often should I take P2? So first the teacher gagged.
First of all, let's clap for her for being able to ask the question
asked.
because wow.
So all of us were like,
my
oh, Yani ume skip, you've decided, we're going
right.
from, okay, cool. So the teacher immediately started doing this for us, like you can't say. And I remember saying, your teacher hasn't given us the permission to talk about it. However, miss, it's important to know they already have this information. So they started nodding like this. Like,
exactly.
they already know. What we would want is for them to have a place where they can ask questions. It's a safe space and get accurate information.
Right.
So I said, I can't answer that, but, and then she opened the floodgates for questions that were largely around sex, contraceptives, birth control. These were girls aged between 13, 14. Yeah. So that's the realities that they know, but give them a safe space to ask questions to get accurate information. And to your point, Murugi, I like how you said, what's the balance between not overexposing them?
Yes.
So don't overshare. Just keep it very, this is what it is.
Yeah.
This is happening to your body. This will happen to your body. If it doesn't, it's okay. For some people, it comes later. Sometimes, when it comes to things like sex, we do advise that people wait for 1 to 3 reasons.
Yeah.
But
To
give
at
them the
least
information.
adulthood, yes.
Adulthood. Countries where, in Netherlands and other countries where they know, they make better decisions.
Oh my gosh.
They make
yeah.
better decisions.
One would imagine that with the penetration of the internet, that people have all the access now. Like, what do you mean you don't know what sex is? What do you mean you don't know, what periods are or how to put on a pad? Now that there is at least that penetration, what would you say now are some of the biggest barriers still to women's health in our country specifically? Like, is it because I don't know if it's lack of information or is it lack of government putting an emphasis on like, no, actually, yeah, women's health does matter and like health of people in general, including women, matters. What are some of the issues you think are need to be addressed for women's health to be taken seriously in 2025?
That's a really good question. I'd start with the second one. I always say when you prioritize something, you give it that gravitas to say this is important.
Yeah.
So even when I think about a lot of the other issues, if I'm to even sidestep and talk about something as tragic as femicide, I'm like, if you don't prioritize something, the message you're sending is it's not that important.
Yes.
So
Agreed.
I'm like, with health, you've not prioritized it. You just don't. You do it seasonally. On those calendar days.
Once. Yeah,
Menstrual
exactly.
Hygiene Day, May 28th. Yes, we're going to do an activation in the county and talk about periods. And then you realize the information is either outdated or it's not, it's tone deaf.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if something isn't prioritized, then it's not given the kind of resourcing and just advocacy that it needs to be given.
Right.
So I'd say the first thing is, can we amplify it enough and make it priority? I really think we're trying. I mean, look at what you're doing here, Murugi. Even what you do on your platform. I'm like, yeah, there are people who are actually trying to amplify these issues.
Yeah.
But there needs to be government support, for sure, policy support. I feel like, first of all, oh my God, I'm just in there's an inside rant in my head about the kind of people who are now being elected in cabinet positions. I'm like, wow. Yani umeni show, it's okay. Let's just give you her.
Yeah.
Because
we talked
needed,
about this.
Because you talked about it, because you
and
need
we
to
were like,
feel it's really bad. And for me, you are sending a message that it's a by the way docket that needs a by the way person who doesn't fully understand. Number one, women's health is evolving. Women's knowledge and information on their bodies and products is evolving. We're a lot more aware. I like the question you asked. Then if we're aware and there's data and digital, why is there still a gap? I think sometimes we still... the penetration levels to some of the far to reach areas sometimes are undermined. And this surprised even me because I'm always down saying, what do you mean? There's information everywhere.
Yeah, we can all access.
They're like, not necessarily.
Right.
Even if they have access to the platforms, there's still a disconnect in terms of what my culture says, what my community, what my, socioeconomic says. Therefore, I don't know. But to be honest, yes, there is a lot more awareness, especially with adolescent girls. But then also adolescent girls, I think there's been a spike in HIV/AIDS infections that hasn't been seen in a long time. Right. So I remember looking at that and saying, then what is it? Is it that there's and this might sound careless. I mean, is there like a frivolousness that has come into being. I know that there's been people saying here and there that, I don't know that we are so scared of being infected as opposed to getting pregnant.
Yes.
You'll hear those things around, but the infection rates are high and teen pregnancy is high.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, okay, then what is the matter? Where is the gap? Where is the understanding around having sex without protection and what that could do to you? Is it a consent issue? What is it? Is it a power dynamic issue?
Perhaps, yeah.
So I think there needs to be macro and micro conversations around this thing, because sometimes I'm like, but we've talked about it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Last year, I'm like, I've talked about this for 10 years. You know?
Do you feel like we are making progress? Like, do you feel like, because sometimes with women's health specifically, it can just feel like we talk and you talk and you talk and you have platforms and vodcast and podcast and conversations. We met the CS, we did who they were, and it just feels like, are we getting anywhere?
I think even being here shows me we are getting somewhere. Like even you having this conversation, I'm like, there is. I also used to ask the same question even as late as last year and the year before. I'm like, are we even? And it took a few people to say, actually, you couldn't do this before. You couldn't even ask these questions with that audacity before. It means now there's a bit of the shame that's been stripped away and audacity has come in. So number one, access to information, access to products, it's still there.
Yeah.
I think what's missing is we still add a lot of gaslighting and shame to it. So we still don't fully ask everything.
Exactly.
Because so women don't fully ask in totality. Very few do. A lot of them will ask touch and go. Girls are scared too because you're told do not even think about sex until you're married. Do not. So I still think there's a lot of that shaming. There is so much shaming. And I wouldn't even lie. Even me, I've taken a very long time to strip away shame. Me, who was in front of microphones and all of that.
Yeah.
But I was still carrying a lot of shame and information of what society was throwing back. Oh, but you're a nice lady. Just like get married and start a family.
And now you're a mother.
Now you're a mother, so you
Do
can't.
you really want to talk about those things?
There you go.
know? Yeah.
Is that coming from a place
Yeah,
of
it is
easy birth?
deeply, baby.
Like deep. So I've had to self-audit so much
Yeah.
to be like, imagine it's okay. It's okay to talk about your body. It's okay to have a meeting with your body and learn it and see what it looks like and know where the pain points are, and even to put the shame in that medical room. It's okay. And I think conversations like this help people. Whenever these
Definitely.
conversations happen, when I hear them, that's why I like what you do. I'm like, man, I don't know if they know, but through that podcast, they've stripped away the shame.
Someone's shame.
Someone's
somewhere.
shame. And then when you do that, it begins to give you the agency to say, I'm also going to ask about either my pleasure, or I'm going to ask about the contraceptive that I should be on, or I'm going to see whether I'm ready to be a mom. So conversations strip away shame.
I love that.
Yeah, they do. And then now what needs to follow is the policy. Kenya has some of the best policies in the world. Poster child implementation.
Yeah.
The former CS, when she was sick, because there have been so many reshuffles. So the one who was there, I don't know, 2 years ago, it was 2022 or 23. And she's like, we don't talk about contraceptives. We talk about abstinence. And all of us were just like,
She said that out loud on a microphone. Wow.
Damn.
something in 2022
Switch off these
happened.
mics for the people. Switch off these mics because, like,
Just
what?
silence them. I remember thinking to myself, that's when the inject started for a lot of people in different industries. For me, it was like, you can't be serious, because we worked so hard. Because the CSs before, not that they were any more perfect, but the rooms they were in, because I was in a lot of those rooms, they were allowing the conversations, and they were collaborating with like creatives and all. They were trying to be progressive. And we saw it. And so when she said that, I remember we were all like, what? You said what?
I literally,
I
good
would
thing
know-
I did not see that
You
one.
think you would
because-
have. And so that was 2022. And that set the precedent, I think, for what we're seeing. I think the numbers are going up because you've publicly declared things and said there's a shame and stigma around anything else you do other than abstinence. Therefore, things will be done quietly.
Yeah.
And people will get contraceptives, etc. quietly. People will have sex quietly, unprotected, because you've said, you've taken a stand of, there's no other option.
Yeah.
So I think that's also why we're struggling with women's health, because there's already, the shame has returned. It's been shrouded as shame again. So the policies and the conversations are seen as almost like there's a vulgarity attached to it. If you're having these conversations like, oh, what do you mean?
How, yeah.
It's taking, nyinyi creatives do mnatusaidia, by the way.
Tunajaribu.
No, you
Sasa-
are. You amplify for so many. And that's why you have so much traction, because you're taking away people's shame.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Muruki is talking about this thing, I'm a woman like her. The experiences she's talking about are the ones I'm talking about. Okay, I feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
Okay, she's also said, hey, educate yourself. Should I?
Come
Should I?
on.
Like, you should know how
That's what she said.
I flatter these guys.
You know?
But I'm like, yeah, and then there's a resource. It's like, oh, she's given us a resource that
To
we
be
can
able to
look
get
at. And
information right.
you're doing the work that should be done. They should have. They should then say, okay, let's support this with policy.
Exactly.
Instead, they're shrouding it with shame and secrecy. So we just keep amplifying because eventually something has to give.
Right.
The best thing about agitation, just like June 25th, something has to give. So even with women's health, something will give. I
Yeah.
truly believe it will.
Really? I like what you keep saying about like amplifying, and I love my podcast. I love podcasts like That's What She Said. Sometimes I ask myself though, like I can talk and talk and talk and talk, and like we said at the beginning, we are privileged women. I want to see more of like grassroots women giving their own stories, you know, like them sharing their stories, because I feel like that's where, like when somebody looks and it's like, this is a woman from my village and she herself has gone and gotten an IUD, or this is a woman from my village and she went to get she was having painful sex and like she was, you know, sorted out and whatever. Even me, I can kind of do it. Do you guys, I don't know in the foundation whether you guys have programs or something like that where you guys talk like focus on like women's stories, like their own stories, grassroots stories, and what is the impact of that, like women sharing their stories in like the general pushing the needle forward when it comes to women's health?
Oh, that's really good. I know, right? So right now, as you know, that we were also affected by the stop work order, by the way. So we had to shut down a few programs, but you just take it like we keep moving.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Are we allowed? Oh,
She's
of
like,
the tree,
It's okay,
the tree
edit. The
somewhere. But
trees.
yeah, okay. So you are affected.
You were affected by the trees, yeah. But that said, there's something that we do that we've done before, and we're going to continue. It's called Tandika Leso. The reason I wanted to bring Tandika Leso is just that, like, set down the leso and let's talk.
Yeah.
Because I remember we'd go to the community, and I'm like, you know, guys, we can't always be here and people are there.
Right.
The thing about a leso is that it's such a unifying fabric. We said, I grew up in Coastal. I just love the story of lesos and the different ways I saw it being used. So I said, why don't we just set the leso down, kila mtu aketi, then we talk. It worked.
Have a conversation.
It worked. So in the beginning, people hold back a bit. At some point, you're the one saying, okay, we need to cut. And there's one in particular, I think I had the highlight of it on my Instagram, but it was from 2022. I'll try and find that video. This one lady, because we said we'll talk about teen pregnancy and sex. And we knew that was going to be hard because, again, where women like in informal settlements, remember who they're surrounded by.
Right.
There's a lot of, they don't have the power and agency as much as, like you've said, women who are privileged. And that's, again, a fraction of women who are privileged because others who are also lack that agency and freedom. So you're surrounded by this power dynamic where you don't win. A lot of the time, if you don't have access to your own resources, you are beholden to somebody. So you can't. And if you're in a relationship which is harmful, again, you don't have any power.
Exactly.
So then you're going there, you know that the sex is painful, you know that you need contraceptives, you know that you need pads, but they're saying we need to put food on the table. Is it going to be the pads or the food? And that's what period poverty is. It's somebody saying we can't get products for you because that's going to forego putting food on the table.
Right.
Because of the cost of products, etc. That's what got me into the work I do. And it's still a bit of a problem, but at least there's been headway. So already those are their factors. Poverty, abuse, economic disempowerment. I'll never forget this one lady because some of them were people who were teen moms and they were talking about their story. Had been saying, I wish somebody had told me. I didn't know. I was 17. This is my story. This lady just from nowhere starts saying, she was basically talking about how she was a teen mom, but he's ended up being the love of her life. But what was so funny is she was focusing on, as I got older, nobody was like giving it to me like that. And we were all like, wait, what? It's on my Instagram. So she was just saying, unajua kuna siku tu zilipanda. Like it just got really hot for me. And if you see the video, we're all laughing. So she came undone, but there was such a beauty to her sharing that story of saying, it was my pain to power moment. I am luckier than a lot of you here because he stayed with me. And here we are a few years later and we have a family. But the fact that she focused on that showed me when you invite them to this platform to come as they are, it's even data harvesting. Yeah.
Exactly.
So you're like, oh, so you'd be interested in that information. So what it showed us was, number one, they want to talk about teen pregnancy because they don't want it for their sisters and brothers. They're like, could you guys flood us with this advocacy?
This information.
We'll be open. We'll call our families. We'll call everyone.
Yeah.
We need it. Number two, can you talk to us about consent? A lot of us, we know that our consent is being breached. There's nothing we can do. Can you educate the other population,
everyone
etc.?
else, yeah.
So that's what I've seen is that they have their lived experience, their truth, and the solutions. What they feel that they don't often have is the agency to amplify that, because they're going back to a place where they're disempowered.
Exactly.
It's shifting, especially with the younger ones. When we interact with them, the ones who are either coming into their 20s,
Yeah.
they're a lot more aware. They're forming a bit of a community, but they still say, listen, this is us. We still have to walk those dark areas
Right.
where we're jumped. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
We still have to fetch water. And on that journey from home to fetching water, you're lucky if you don't get harassed. There's even things like sextortion, sex for water. So there's all these categories of harassment. Sex for pads, sex for water, sex for food. So everything is transactional, and I don't have my own means. So I'll have to give something of mine to get that pad, to get that food, to get that water, which is economic power. Even though I know it sounds like a big word and it's triggering in some spaces, I'm like, no, but if they have some financial, they can at least do something like figure out a way around the water.
Yeah.
They can buy it early and then they don't have to go fetch it for free. They can get the pads, even if it's, so in a lot of these areas, instead of selling a pack of 10, they're sold as 2. They can buy the 2 or 3 pads, manage their period for that month, then they don't have to have sex for pads. They can have that money and get some food. It's putting money in their hands that can keep them safe. And a lot of the time, if they're in a household where even their partner, they're on the same page,
Right.
then it also means that it becomes a double income household, which quite a number of the men have said we don't have a problem with it. Sometimes maybe other men will call us a simp for it. So even us, we're facing our own issues around social.
Everybody's going through something.
Everybody's going through something. So we do need to give them safe spaces. But I always say we need to protect the agency of women and girls. So every time I see a woman who's got agency, like now spending time with all of these 20-something-year-olds, I'm like, oh my God, look at this magic. I'm like, okay, how do we protect it though? Yeah. The first thing, I become so maternal. I'm like, okay, So I'm always like, how can we form a community of support around people who use their voices? Because then you're met with a world that's pushing back on you so badly, especially now when there's an anti-gender rhetoric going on.
So true.
Yeah. So give women safe spaces to ask their questions, whether it's grassroots, whether it's boardrooms, everywhere it is. It has to be safe. And then it has to be accurate information. And then there needs to be a sustainable sort of like support around them. It may sound insignificant, but I'm like, if you walk with somebody, I always talk about the Amuje, I hope I've said it correctly, Amuje leaders. So Ellen Sirleaf, who was like the first female president of
Liberia?
I was going to say Sierra Leone, see my life.
Is it Liberia? It is Liberia. Okay,
Thank
fine.
Edit, thanks. There you go. Of Liberia.
Yeah.
She's formed this network called Amuje Leaders. And basically women who want to participate in Africa in politics, you can be selected and go in. So 2 years ago, I went for one of the forums. I was just an attendee when she was around. And I asked one of the women, a Zimbabwean politician, I think she was in the opposition. I'm like, okay, so what does it do for you? She said, you know what it does? There's a time I was speaking on a podium and I was talking about policies and pushing back on what the government is doing because that's my role as opposition.
Yeah.
I was ripped to shreds. I was insulted. I was being sent for death threats. So I tapped into the network and I was besides myself, I was crying. And she said, Ellen Sirleaf just asked me, what is it you need? Do you need courage? Do you need, what do you need? So she was just like, I don't know, I just need, so she said, Sawa. So she came together with some of the other leaders to support her.
Wow.
She just said, let's give her a call and just walk her through what she needs. Do you need a minute?
Right.
Okay, you need courage. She said she was so pragmatic. You need courage. Okay, number one. You need what?
Support.
Number 2. Support. Number 3.
And
she said that's what has sustained me, is knowing that I have a community that when I'm in my agency and speaking on behalf of others, I know that I'll be persecuted.
Exactly.
And I know that it gets to me and it gets to everyone, but I have a community that supports me and walks with me and tries to encourage me.
Right.
And I just wish that could be multiplied. Doesn't have to be that high level.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, even as an advocate, I've felt triggered and tired. Honestly,
I can
I'm just-
imagine. And this work sounds a lot.
It
Like
is.
the more you speak about it, the more I'm like, we haven't even gotten to this. We haven't even talked about this. We haven't even. It's so much, and I imagine that must be exhausting sometimes
It is.
and heavy.
and heavy and
Yeah.
discouraging. And I've just had to learn to, how do you have those coping tools? Because the work has to be done.
Yeah.
Because issues around women's health have to be advocated
That's it,
for.
yeah.
But in order to sustain your momentum, you have to have community and you need to be able to pour back into yourself. So even Tatiana, the first thing I say to her is, you need to be able to sustain your momentum. And she's like, wow,
Right.
walk me through that. I'm like, you need to stop a bit
Yeah.
to pour into yourself. If you want to be here 10 years from now, 15 years from now,
gotta.
you've got to sustain yourself. And I think we can do that more around women's health, around women's health issues.
Right.
Sometimes it's very there's so many different people doing
Right.
different things. Where is the time for us to come together without looking at each other and being like, oh, she has a bigger piece of the pie.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, you're a woman, I'm a woman. You
We
have
are
health
all- we are all
needs.
eating. Can
We're
we all
all,
eat?
we're all
Yeah.
eating. You have health needs. I have health needs. Do you have access to a gynecologist? Okay. Does your community have? Why don't we rally together and just form some kind of, I'm not saying people don't have their individual movement,
Right.
but have a collective. I think we need to form some kind of collective
Yeah.
where we're all pouring into each other and then making noise. And when Murugi needs a minute, we're like, Sawa, we're covering her and saying,
We
you
are
take a
pausing, you
minute.
pause, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Now, but we need to point to her so that she can come back strong, because what she's doing is advocating for importance. So we need to do that. I've said all that. I know we're talking about women's health, but it's all related. It all
somehow-
ties in. You need the fire to advocate.
Exactly.
You need the policymakers to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
Then you need the amplifiers to do what they're doing.
Exactly.
You need the media to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
And then it needs to be intentional, sustainable, and we need to be radical.
Right.
Aki, this is the first time in my life I'm like, let me tell you, whether it's quiet radical or out there radical,
You're doing it.
we
Yeah,
have
we
to
gotta
it.
do something.
We have to do it. It's our bodies.
Yeah.
And
Ours,
the men in
yeah.
our lives and children are also affected by our health being compromised.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't believe we have to do that math.
It benefits no one.
It
For my
benefits
health
no
to be
one.
compromised, you're absolutely right.
It benefits
Yeah.
no one. So can we just be as radical as the bullies? Because those guys mobilized.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, Ati mnataka rights. They mobilized quietly. Boom.
Yeah.
They started saying you can't talk about periods
can't.
in school. This was
Yeah.
in Florida.
Yeah.
Florida.
In the US.
In the US. Other people, you can't do this, you can't do that. I was just like, wait, when did you guys mobilize?
Yeah.
What were we doing? But they mobilized. Their unified call was agencies are no. So what is our unified call? You have to be louder than the
Right.
bullies. They mobilized resource. They were like, ooh. And now look, now they're our presidents, policy makers.
You
the
know that
bullies
the
won.
people who are calling the shots.
Yeah.
And yet we're still there. There's still amazing people doing amazing work. We need to not be polite about it. We've been very
Right.
apologetic and polite. I'm like, no.
And trying to be feminine,
Trying
and
to be
sweet,
feminine.
and not ruffle feathers. Like, give me my rights. It will be really nice to have my rights. Thank you so much. Yeah, please. Can I have
Like
my
they
rights?
say, people in Tanzania, police doesn't tell you you're under arrest. Please, can I take you
May
to
I
jail?
arrest you?
Please.
Yeah.
That's good. Ati, may I
And for
arrest you,
police,
please?
yeah, that would
Could
be
you
lovely.
Yeah.
As opposed to here, excessive use of force
Excessive.
forever.
They're
yeah.
just like, why are we talking?
Yeah.
I use the stick.
So to our audience watching,
Yes.
what are some tangible things that everyone can do? Every woman, every man who's watching, what are some tangible things they can do to be able to like be part of this movement of like moving the needle forward for women's health, ensuring that the people who need the information about women's health are able to access it and be able to get it, and that we are being able to at least advocate for those who are perhaps not able to advocate for themselves.
Yeah, I would say don't undermine the little things and don't overthink the big ones. So by undermining the little things, you're like, oh, but my voice, I'm like, doesn't matter. Have the conversation at your dinner table.
Yeah.
Have a conversation, even if they say start even with a whisper.
Yeah.
Just be like, okay, I want to talk about it's okay. Start with your whisper, then find that
Right,
voice.
yeah.
Wherever you are. Once you have the conversation, what happens is you begin to be informed by force,
Yeah.
right? So have the conversation, stay informed. Those are the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Because once you do that, now you're part of the bigger conversation.
conversation,
Because
yeah.
you can't plug in from a point of no knowledge, right? And don't be scared about, but you guys are like doing podcasts and protests.
Right,
It's
yeah.
okay. That's that's our contribution,
Yeah.
but it includes yours.
Exactly.
So I'd say number one, tangible, just first of all, just get information, accurate information. There's a lot of resources. Seek them out. Once you do, where is your pain point? Because everybody in the world
their
has a pain point somewhere, or even something that triggers you. Is it access to contraceptives? Is it access to information? Is it safe sex? Is it period poverty? Is it maternal health care? Whatever it is, there's a pain point somewhere, something that strikes you or something that affects you. Then once you get information about it, now you start sharing that.
Yeah.
Again, you don't have to start big. Start in your circles.
Exactly.
Just with your friends, just be like, you guys, did you know this? You know, you guys, the other day I was reading something and I didn't know. Your friends or family could be like either, oh, tell us more. They could be like, yeah, we knew. Okay, where are you coming from with this information? Your circle could actually also undermine you and be like, we don't talk about that here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of organizations that can allow you to volunteer so that you're also not compromising the space where you are.
Exactly, because
you
maybe
know.
you're not ready to.
You're not ready.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You're not ready. It's interesting because I find myself, I'm pursuing my faith, but I'm also pursuing my activism. That means I've rubbed people the wrong way. Either way,
can
I've
imagine.
made peace with it. It's
You're
fine.
out here talking about these things and you're a member of the church. What do you mean?
You're talking about, I'm like, yeah, I'm this God put it in me, okay? So I come back and
Yeah.
say, have the information, plug into organizations and programs that are doing something, lend your voice, even if it's a whisper.
Yeah.
But what you can't do, and I know this is harsh, you can't be silent.
Yeah.
If you're silent, you're complicit. If you're silent, it means the women who deserve access to healthcare are still several steps away because you were quiet, because you thought it's not in your place.
Yeah.
This is the first time in the world in our history that we all need to be on the same page about access information. Do it in your way.
Exactly.
A song, a poem, whether you're acting, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a podcaster, that's all using what you have.
Exactly.
But what you can't do is be silent.
Absolutely.
And then once you know better, you do better and
do
you
better.
amplify. Sign those petitions, join those protests if you can.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then send somebody to or amplify the protest.
Exactly.
Everybody's voice matters. Yours matters a lot. And it matters to access to health.
Yeah, I love that. I love how during these protests last year, we were able to see how everyone's small contribution,
Yes.
whether your contribution is bringing water or someone's contribution is like medical assistance, someone is like to
amazing.
march, someone you brought bandanas, someone else, whatever. I love how that showed us that everyone in their own small way can do something. I know sometimes you can really feel like, yeah, wow, look, Janet Mbugua is doing such amazing things. But literally, even you with your 12 followers, can you share her poster to your 12 followers? You know, something like that. Like, can we all just contribute in one way or another? What can you do to help, you know, the person? I absolutely love that. Do you have something to add before we close?
Yeah. First of all, you ladies are having an amazing conversation.
You ladies.
It was just great just listening. And oh my God, first of all, I just have to say this story. There is a story in Coast where a woman, la mother, found out her daughter's vagina had swollen up to, how she describes it, up to her knee. So this is what happened, yeah. The girl, unajua Mombasa, they usually take like tuk-tuk people to take your child to school and back, like a private tuk-tuk. So the man used to tell the child, let's play a game. He tells her, go there, do something, take a customer there, pretend. So he goes park somewhere and tells her, you're not late for school, just I'll take care of everything. And he's given an excuse in school. So she pretends to be a car, does things, and then she's tired. And he goes like, siwe ni gari, now you're tired, yeah. When a car is tired means it's run out of fuel. Have you ever seen your dad fueling a car? Yeah. Does he hold something like this while holding
God.
his penis, yeah? So acha nikuweke mafuta, let me fuel you because you're a car. And it went on for so many days and the child never said anything at home because she knows she's playing. So you know the importance of information. I loved how you brought that up because it's crazy. If that girl was told, she wouldn't have allowed that because that's not a petrol station. She's not a car. And he had her for so many days and it's crazy. Also, it fascinates me that we are only told what to do with our pain, but we are not told where it comes from.
Wow.
You see? And the shame thing is so intense and diverse that if we start talking about it right now, in a room full of 5 women, 4 of them have been shamed. Why is it like that? You know, and when the ones who give life are under siege, the whole system is under siege. There's nothing. That's why there's an imbalance in the world. Things are not right. There's a lot of chaos. So I loved your conversation. So Janet, when you're stripped of all your artificial adornments, not the activist, not you, just you, who was that girl when she felt like, yes, I need to be an activist? And what dreams did she have about the solutions she wanted? When you think, I want to do this because this is what I dream to achieve. So, yeah.
Oh, you've just been sitting there with all those gems. Sawa. Thanks. I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm still processing a lot of what you've said.
Yeah.
When those who give birth are under siege, that's very powerful. I don't, and I'm stripped away of everything. I don't know. I think I'm in a season in my life where I'm doing, I think I mentioned it, a lot of self-auditing. I don't know what it, maybe it's perimenopause, it's fine. It's who knows. But what I do know is right now I'm reconciling a lot of things about myself, but I'm okay with it. I'm like, okay, you could have approached that differently. So you've asked me something and you're like, you've taken me to therapy. Thank you. I don't know. I don't know if I'm stripped away. Who is that girl? I think I've always, and I think my younger son has it, there's just a desire to see things work for people. So it bugs me when there's injustice. It doesn't make sense that you can be so comfortable carrying out something that hurts somebody.
Yeah.
That you can take away their dignity, that you can take away their life, that you can take away their rights. So from a young age, I'd see that and prod it. Why did that happen? So now Mali, who's 6 turning 7, he asks things. So he makes me confront that child, because he'll be like, I don't know that you talked to that person well. I'm like, what do you mean?
And when your child says it, it hits in a different way, because it's like, this is a 6-year-old.
We were at the supermarket checkout the other day, and he randomly asked the guy, do you like your job? So first he's shocked. Me, I'm shocked. I'm like, sio mimi sikumwambia aulize. He said, yeah, so I asked him, okay, why did you ask that? He just said, no, I just thought he looked a bit sad, but he said he's tired. So maybe then he moves on. So it's the little things, or when we buy something, it's like, have we bought for Maureen, the nanny?
Empathy. That's deep.
Empathy. So it's like, how are you buying for everybody?
But not Maureen.
So at the core of it, it's a reminder, I think, of maybe what compelled me to do this. Is the empathy and understanding that without that, that's why the world is what it is. During COVID, there was a group of leaders who were leading with empathy. And for the first time in a long time, they were platformed. And a lot of them were women. Not saying that men didn't, some did. But for the first time, there was, soft skills actually can heal the world.
Yeah.
Not the horror. So I think at the core of it, it's that empathy, that curiosity, and that pursuit for right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it hasn't been met with heartache and barriers and persecution. But a long time ago, when I was fighting for the rights of children in school as a house captain, and the headmaster came down on me, I even called my dad, and I was sobbing, and he gave the phone to my mom, and she said, if you want to fight for the right thing, you will be persecuted. So just decide. And that changed everything for me.
Is it a sacrifice you're willing to make?
Yeah,
right?
so persecution. So I think that's who I am. So without everything, and I think having been a public figure for a while, I've realized for the first time it's no longer so much about how I look or what I wear. And I promise you I would never have said that before. It's the impact of it. That's kind of what I've circled. I'm finding myself circling back to that.
I want to bring this back to what we were saying. I loved your answer. I loved how aware you are, but it brings us back to what Murugi was saying. Society puts us in boxes that we sometimes tend to accept the boxes. In a way, we don't subconsciously, because I asked you, who are you when you're stripped of all your superficial adornment, and somehow you tied it to your son. And me, I was asking, when you're standing at the mirror and the mirror is holding your gaze, that Janet, and allow me to take this opportunity. I loved the Tandika Leso. I've always wanted to create a community where I bring people. My idea was that we sit down. Tumekunja miguu, let's sit, let's eat, like we do in our Swahili community. But when you said Tandika Lesos, I was like, wow. Imagine now the circle we are sitting in, it's in Lesos, and we bring fewer Lesos than the people, so we have to share, and everyone has to be accommodated. So permission to kind of steal your idea and the Lesos, and permission to have you guys attend even one. Like I want the Janet that when the noise dies, when the applause fades, and the mirror holds your gaze, and when the silence just stretches far enough and you're hearing the echoes of your own thoughts bouncing off the walls of your soul, who are you? See, so you guys, many promise kwa camera. Mnakuja.
Excuse me.
Coming.
Wait.
I know.
I'm like eti huko ukinyamaza tu ukiangalia, suddenly she's like bam.
I can't even answer that question.
No.
Who are you? Your
You've
soul.
also- I know, where is your soul?
I don't know.
I know, because we're winding up. I will say
Yeah.
I'm coming back to who she is. So I don't know that I can fully say, and I've made peace with the fact that I'm just resetting. I'm becoming. If you asked me that a year ago, I'd be like, this is who I am and this is what I do. But life kind of forced me to reset.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that I can fully answer her, and I've realized that's also okay.
Yeah.
So I'm a woman becoming.
Yeah.
That's
And
who
maybe
I am.
we are different women at different phases.
I think that's
of
what it
our
is.
lives,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
also okay. It's like you are that Janet, and now you're coming to a different Janet,
Yeah.
and there can be even 10 Janets. in
Yeah,
your
and I'm
lifetime.
trying to
Who
figure
knows?
her out, and I'm
Yeah.
having conversations with her.
Yeah.
I'm having conversations with her shame, with her successes, with her failures.
Yeah.
I'm very firmly in that season this year.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it. I'm okay to talk about it because I think it validates sometimes feeling a sense of I'm moving, I'm also stuck.
All right.
But I'm aware of it and I'm becoming whatever version is on the other side. So that's what I would say.
That is, and that's what she said. and
what
that
she
is what she said. Janet, thank you so much for being here on this set. Thank you for your honesty, your vulnerability. Thank you for spurring us into action, because I feel like the end goal of all these conversations is for someone watching to do something, like anything, whether it's having a conversation, calling someone, getting up and going to the doctor, sharing a pamphlet with someone, sharing a post on social media, whatever. I feel like hearing you speak spurs us all into action. And we are so grateful for that.
Thank you.
And
I'm
for
grateful.
using your voice.
Thank you. I'm grateful to you too. You, I'll sidebar because I don't know how. I'm
She'll
just
ask you about your soul.
She does about my soul. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you, Murugi. Honestly, bottom of my heart, platforms like yours also remind us that the questions we've been scared to ask ourselves, you ask them for us. So thank you as well for what you do.
Asante. Thank you. And thank you, guys. We will be right back after this.
That's what she said.
That was a really heavy conversation. I would describe it as heavy, as I would describe it as empowering. I would describe it as it made me feel optimistic and hopeful, but at the same time just tired in advance. Those are the words that are coming to mind when I'm thinking about that conversation. For you watching it, what are some of the things that you got from that conversation, or how would you describe, with the conversation we just had with Janet?
From that, I have a lot of emotions playing in my mind. I am happy. I'm enlightened. I am angry. But most of all, I'm happy that this enlightenment is going on within us and for the audience to see, because I have learnt a lot. And being enlightened about the fact that this is something that is actually happening, not just stories you're hearing, but it's something that is actually happening, is really good to hear. So I'd like this to reflect from us to the world, so that they can see the impact that people like Janet and you are doing,
and you
and me and her
you're
and
here
everybody else from
conversation.
TWSS,
Absolutely,
what we are doing to make change. I'm also happy that we are talking about this. I'm really happy we're talking about this, and that there are women out there who are actually doing this. Like, there are women who are helping other women to do this, to overcome period shame, to overcome the shame on their bodies, to overcome everything bad that is happening in the society. That we're actually talking about this is something to be applauded. Yeah.
I love that as well. You?
Wow, I'm trying not to shed a tear or two, but from everything that Jana said and what the conversation you guys were having, she made me have a realization, and it teared me up because, like I said in the beginning of the episode, I'm very mad because I'm like, there's no solution. Like we said, in whose hands are we safe? But Janet grounded me. She was like, in your hands, in the hands of these people that are making a choice right now. The cameraman could have gone and recorded any other episode of people talking something else different, but he chose to film an episode where it's empowering women. So we are safe. And I just loved it. And I'm just seated here. I'm like, wow. And she also reminded me that we are making a difference. We are the difference that's actually happening right now. The time we are investing, this is part of our life. If we had 5,000 minutes remaining on this earth, we sacrificed part of our lives to be here. And yes, the world is cruel, but this space isn't. And it's fascinating me in my mind right now. And I'm really, give me a moment, you guys continue.
Yeah. No, I feel it. And it is an emotional topic, because the thing with discussing women's health is that our health is literally our lives. you're discussing women's lives and like people just being alive, the choice between someone being alive and being dead, someone having their issues ignored, someone not being given the information that they need to get, someone not having access to, proper medical care. That literally is the difference between someone being alive and someone being dead. So I do feel like this topic is particularly really heavy. I promise you that some of the other episodes in this season won't be as heavy, but for this one I feel like it was important for it to be this heavy, because in reality the issues facing women are heavy. A lot of the things we are going through are heavy. For me, it was, I was just saying to Janet after she left the set that it can be difficult to not get like bogged down in your mind about like, oh my God, we have so far to go. There are so many women who need access to these things. There are so many girls who are suffering. There are so many girls who don't have access to, like period products, and who are being taken advantage of and whatnot. And you can get really down on yourself. But I feel like trying to be more optimistic and thinking, okay, but we can do something. Today, by being here, we are doing something. By taking part in this conversation, we are doing something. Every time we have a conversation that empowers someone, that helps someone, that shares information with someone who didn't have that information, we are doing something. And I feel like as long as enough of us are doing something, we'll keep pushing the needle forward, Do you feel like, what would you say is your one takeaway from this episode, that if someone watching doesn't take away anything else from the episode, akumbuke hiyo kitu moja, just that one thing, what would you say?
For someone watching this, kitu ningependa huyo mtu akumbuke is that there is no shame around being a woman. There is no shame around your body. There is no shame around having periods. And being a woman in itself is just fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. You?
I'd love to say that by a statement, you cannot trust a naked man that tells you to dress up. So whatever change you aspire from the world, be that first. You want the world to be more kinder to you, be more kinder to yourself. Even the thing with shame, the only time, and I'm saying this in the most loving manner, the only time shame will get to you is if you're feeling shameful about yourself, So just invest in yourself in a way that no matter what the world echoes outside of you, you are at your peace with yourself, because it's about the roots that will determine the quality of the fruits. So just cater for the roots. The other trees don't even, contribute to your growth. So that's what we focus on. And when you look at me and you don't remember anything else, just remember, no one is coming to save you, baby girl. Wake up. Community can only support you, but you're the only one who can elevate yourself. Yeah.
Wow, you such gems every time you like. That's what she said. Literally, that's what she said. I love that. Thank you so much. That's empowering even for me at my age. Sometimes I'm always just like, but I need my husband to whatever. No, actually, it's just you. It's you, and you need to like stand up and do something for yourself. For me, I would say for someone watching, the one thing that I would want them to take out of it is that wherever we are, everyone can do something to positively impact the lives of a woman around them. Whether it is you, or it could be your sister, it could be your cousin, it could be your neighbor, it could be, someone who you interact with daily. Everybody can do something that improves the lives of women around them. Because one thing is that even if I have my health properly taken care of, but my nanny doesn't have access to healthcare, guess what? That also impacts me somehow. Because if my nanny does not have access to healthcare, who's gonna then come and take care of my kids? And if her mother in the village is having issues, do you think your nanny will even her mind will not even be here at work? Do you know what I mean? So everybody can do something in their individual sphere of influence to be able to positively impact the lives of other women. And I really truly hope that anyone watching this has been able to be somehow impacted positively. And I feel like even though this particular conversation was really heavy, really heavy, and we'd love to hear your thoughts about it down below, please make sure you check out the other episodes in the vodcast, because there are others which delve deeper into specific things. Like Janet spoke a lot about period poverty. You also mentioned that. You spoke a lot about like culture and shame, and some of the conversations in the season will be to do with like sex and how we see our bodies, how culture has shaped how we see our bodies, our ability to speak up and things like that. And yeah, wow, I feel like we all just need to breathe in and breathe out. We breathe in, breathe out. Yeah, just release, because you know what? Guess what? Tomorrow you're waking up and you'll still be a woman. So, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Please do follow us on all our social media platforms, wherever you find your podcast and you are listening to this one. Please follow, please subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So thank you so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode of
That's What She Said.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's what she said.